Hey there everyone, welcome to Tales and Text. I'm your host Nisha and welcome to another video. So if you watched my Mahabharata update on volume 3, you may remember that I did mention how I wanted to show you the Purana collection that I have right now. So as you know, I am a huge fan of Dr. Bibek Debroy's translations. I have read his translation of the critical edition of the Ramayana, and I'm currently reading the translation of the critical edition of the Mahabharata done by Dr. Debroy. Now, similarly, Dr. Debroy has been translating the Puranas as well. He is currently, immersed in the ancient world and slowly chugging away towards completing the translation of the Puranas, which is something really important because if you just Google online, it is, while you can find various translations of the critical editions of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, online, whether for free or for purchase, it is very rare that you can find the translations of the Puranas. You might find some popular translations such as of the popular Puranas or the popular Mahapuranas in particular, such as the Bhagavata Purana or the Garuda Purana, for example. But it is very unlikely that you will find translations of, let's say, the Matsya Purana or the Shiva Purana. And so having someone like Dr. Bibek Debroy come in and just translate these Puranas for us so that all of us have the opportunity to read these books and to understand the stories in them, to understand the philosophical debates in them, and to just get a better sense of what Hinduism actually is like, I think that's a, phenomenal commendable effort, and I'm super eager to showcase the Purana collection that I have currently, and also talk a bit about what I'm looking forward to in the next couple of years. So far I have all of the Purana translations done by Bibek Debroy until today, and I have kind of enabled notifications on Amazon for whenever he publishes a new book, a new Purana in particular. And so let me just take you through quickly the Purana collections that I have, and I won't spend a lot of time describing what they are because currently I am not equipped enough to do so because I haven't read these books yet. But you know what, after seeing these books, you can go ahead, do your research, find out more information about it, and then decide if that's something that you want to purchase for yourself. All right, let us get started. The first set of Puranas that I want to show you is the Bhagavata Purana. So this is a 3-volume Purana. Now the Bhagavata Purana is the most popular and the most well-known Puranas of all the 18 Puranas that are there, the 18 Mahapuranas. And that's mainly because the Bhagavata Purana actually sort of fills in the gap that you kind of see or notice in the Mahabharata. Because the Bhagavata Purana talks of creation myths and all of the myths that are sort of kind of referenced in the Mahabharata, but their stories are not actually told to us in the critical edition of the Mahabharata. So the Bhagavata Purana talks of creation myths, of stories of kings and demons and gods and different worlds, and just it's a glorious potpourri of Hindu myths and legends. So Bhagavata Purana is definitely the most popular, and it has 3 volumes. Each is about 450 to 500 pages, and according to Dr. Debroy's estimation, this is the easiest Purana to read and also the most entertaining. So if you finished the Mahabharata, ideally, especially even after you finish the Harivamsha, which is sometimes considered as a part of the Mahabharata and sometimes as a standalone book, after you finish the Harivamsha as well, if you want to start reading the Purana, many people do recommend that you start with the Bhagavata Purana, purely because of how there is a lot of connection in the Bhagavata Purana to the incidents that happen in the Mahabharata. And if my knowledge is correct of this, and please correct me if I'm wrong again, I think some of the philosophical questions that are raised in the Mahabharata but not answered are also answered in the Bhagavata Purana. So this is volume 1, right? This is volume 2, and this is volume 3. The next Purana that I want to talk about is the Brahma Purana. and this is the 2 volume part, again around 500-550 pages, big. And the Brahma Purana basically talks of the myths surrounding Brahma. And of course, this is just a very superficial explanation that I've given right now. There is a lot more to it. So the Brahma Purana, again, lots of stories and myths that we don't know about, specifically centering around Brahma and the creation of the universe. And this is something that you can choose to start reading after you finish Bhagavata Purana, or perhaps even just start reading after the Mahabharata as well. Or, if you're just reading Puranas as a standalone thing and not the epics, then you can start reading this as well. Especially if you want to follow the Trinity cycle, like Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. So if you want to follow that, I think you can start with these. So this is volume 1, and this is volume 2. The next Purana that came out and which I purchased was the Markandeya Purana, and this is just a single book, and this is also something called the Devi Mahatmya. It is the collection of stories about the Devi. It's called the Markandeya Purana because the sage Markandeya answers questions about the Devi and about Shakti and the manifestations of Shakti in the universe. So this is a pretty female-oriented book. I hope it's a feminist book as well, because especially considering how this shows the true power of the Devi and the manifestations of Devi and the grand things that the goddess has done in, on the earth and even in the heavens. So this is a single volume book. It's a pretty small book if you actually compare it to both the Bhagavata and the Brahma Purana. And I'm actually very interested in reading this book because, and I'm sure you know my feelings, especially if you followed my Mahabharata readathon videos, how I am very annoyed at the blatant sexism that is there in the epics. But of course, I do acknowledge that it is a work of its time, and so we have to take it at face value and try to learn from the mistakes that we can actually notice in these works, and try to learn how to lead better lives, more empowered lives for absolutely everyone in the current setting by using the timeless wisdom that we can find in these ancient texts. So I'm actually eagerly looking forward to reading this book, and I'll let you know how it goes once I do start reading it. The next Purana in my collection is the Vishnu Purana, and again, this too is a single volume Purana. Now, incidentally, this kind of came as like a surprise to me, and I don't know, maybe for some of you might also find this to be a surprise, and others might already know this, so it might not be a surprise for you. But I just found out that the Vishnu Purana actually does not explain about the Dashavatar. I know the Dashavatar is the cover, but it apparently is not a detailed account of the Dashavatar. Instead, what my research shows is that while the Dashavatar are mentioned and maybe short stories are given, the Vishnu Purana is actually an astronomical text. Ancient Vedic astrology information is actually the core text of the Vishnu Purana. And it's really funny that before I actually purchased this, when I found out that Dr. Debra was actually releasing this book, I had done a bit of internet search, and on Quora I remembered someone talking about how how some of the kind of the demons mentioned, that for example in Vishnu's Narsimha avatar, the occurrence of Narsimha and the sort of world he inhabits and the people that he fights, the kings that he fights, all of those represent constellations that the Vedic people, that ancient people were kind of aware of, and they sort of represented the I don't know how to put it. It was kind of like the creation of various galaxies and creation of new universes, and how the ancient people were aware of these phenomena and how they sort of explained these intergalactic phenomena through myths in the Vishnu Purana. So again, this is another book that I'm eagerly awaiting to read. I hope I can start this soon. Maybe I might start reading the Puranas, side by side with the Mahabharata whenever I get a chance, because otherwise I feel like these books might take another couple of years. They might just hang around on the shelf, so I don't want that to happen. So Yeah, super interesting. The final set of Puranas that I have right now is the Shiva Purana. And this is a chunky 3 volume book. In fact, Dr. Bibek Debroy has actually mentioned in the introduction of the Shiva Purana how he had actually never intended to translate the Shiva Purana this early on in his translation journey of the Puranas. And that's mainly because he has always maintained that it is easier to get access to information about Vishnu related Puranas and Brahma related Puranas. So, out of the 18 Mahapuranas, some belong to or come under the purview of Brahma, some come under the purview of Vishnu, some come under the purview of Shiva. And because there is a larger Vaishnava population in India, and also awareness of Vaishnava traditions is more compared to awareness of Shaiva or Shiva related traditions and practices, it is easier to find information about Vishnu related Puranas or Brahma related Puranas than it is about Shiva related Puranas. And Dr. Debroy talks about a really interesting experience that he had while visiting Sadhguru. Dr. Debroy talks about how he had a life-changing experience with Sadhguru and how that kind of led him into a series of experiences that was sort of like indicative by the universe that, hey, it's time for him to pick up the Shiva Purana and translate it. And Dr. Debroy also mentions how he had a tremendously difficult time tracking down ancient mantras related to Shiva that was sort of lost to time, and he had to travel around the country and speak to lots of people and just go through lots of really extent, the kind of these ancient documents that are hard to come by in order to get the information he needed to successfully translate the Shiva Purana. And in fact, the Shiva Purana, because of all of these mantras and all of these notes, copious amounts of notes and descriptions, are the biggest Puranas that he has translated till date. Each book is somewhere between 750 to 800 pages in length. So as you can see, hugely chunky books. And this is definitely he did mention how this was the most difficult Purana he translated so far, and how even for the reader this is going to be the most difficult Purana to get through because of the technical information that is there about Shiva related temples, the related rituals, practices, philosophies. And just because, like I mentioned, how he also said the awareness about Shaiva practices are so limited compared to Vaishnava practices, getting a good understanding of what these practices mean, what these philosophies mean, will be tremendously difficult, especially if someone is a Vaishnava themselves. So definitely a daunting work, and something possibly I think this Purana is something that I will possibly sort of defer for a future time until I sort of dig my heels into the Puranas themselves, because I want to start off with the easier to read, easier to finish Purana, so I can get a good sense of what the world of the Puranas looks like compared to the world of the epics. And then perhaps when I'm sort of more ready, or I think I'm better ready to kind of dive into the Shiva Purana, then I'll do so. So this is volume 1. This is volume 2. And this is volume 3. So you have to admit, what, the covers that Dr. Debroy chooses for his Puranas, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. I think compared to all of the books that I have that are translated by him, the covers of the Puranas are something that I absolutely love. After the Puranas, it's the Ramayana, and I think my least favorite are the covers of the Mahabharata, because I think some of the covers just don't make sense. Like in volume 2, if you remember the review that I gave, I actually even posed a question of, why is there a parrot on the book? I still don't have an answer to that. These are the Puranas that I have so far, and according to the introduction in the Shiva Purana, Dr. Debroy is currently finishing or in the final stages of translating the Brahmanda Purana, and after that he plans to go either to the Matsya Purana or to the Garuda Purana, one of the two. And he does talk about how he plans to, from now on, kind of alternate between Shiva and Vishnu related Purana. So there's a sort of good representation of all of the Puranas, and how he hopes that he can complete translating all of the 18 Mahapuranas in his lifetime. And that's something that I wholeheartedly wish for as well. He's a brilliant translator, and he's selflessly putting in all of this effort so that all of us can actually have access to these ancient texts, which are going to be lost in time, because not all of us, I think very few of us today, have such a good mastery of Sanskrit that we can actually go ahead and read these Puranas in Sanskrit. So for example, I don't know Sanskrit myself, I didn't study it in school. So getting that level of mastery, even if you want to start learning today, reaching that level of mastery to be able to read these texts in their critical forms is something that's going to take a really long time, and it's often not feasible for everyone to do. So having a translator go ahead and give authentic translations of these works is something that is hugely admirable, and I do hope Dr. Debroy is able to complete translating the 18 Puranas, 18 Mahapuranas in his lifetime. All right. So this brings me to the end of this video. If you stuck around with me so far, thank you so much for watching. Do let me know, do you have these Puranas with you, or are you reading these Puranas, or have you purchased them, or are they on your wish list? Do you plan to get them? Which Purana are you most eager to start reading? Are there any other translators that you recommend to us? So do let me know in the comments below. All right, see you later. Bye bye.